That was not the right move. Hey, John.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm good. We're releasing another instrument today in your Silver Skyline.
Yes, we are. And I've got it in my lap right here. It is the new Lunar Ice limited edition colorway.
There you go.
And I have to flip it for you to see it, but there you got a little purple and pink. Dead on. It's sort of, look at that blue. It's a little bit like a blue ice. Yeah, that's
all kinds of colors coming out of this thing, John.
Yeah, it's like a very twilight kind of post-sunset vibe. I keep seeing new colors come out of it, actually. Yeah. Yeah. So very exciting.
So this multicolor paint, when was the first time you decided that would look really good on a guitar? Can you tell the story, John?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not the first person to ever put that kind of paint on a guitar, but it just made sense to bring that in as some sort of like modern idea for a finish. And they actually react really differently. The colors that are traditionally made for cars, they react really differently in the contours of an electric guitar. And it's just been really, really fun to work inside of those confines. It's not as many curves as a car, but it really does show off the sort of natural kind of the belly cut here, and you guys a 3/4 cut in that kind of bevel there. And it was just a way of sort of waking up the way a guitar could look. And you know, I gravitate towards interesting finishes. Like if your mind starts moving on it, you think of like the bowling ball finish or like the swirl paint. Those kind of things have always intrigued me, and they make sense as kind of limited edition guitars that sit to the side of what's normally being offered. And when we did it last year with the Nebula, I don't like when a bunch of people can't get something. I know that to some people it's exciting. I go, well, then not enough people got one. And I think when Bev, who works at PRS, we all know and love Bev, said, hey, people are asking about a maple one. I went, that's interesting. Maybe we could do that next year. And in the last year, since about almost a perfect year ago, not a perfect year, but I mean a perfect 365 days, we just kept experimenting with different colors and putting it with a maple neck. And I've actually started to really love maple necks now. So because of that, I'm kind of gravitating towards the maple. And there's 1,000 of them, I should say. Last time we did 500 and I don't like when people get upset. I like it to be exciting, but not upsetting. So this should hopefully remedy that.
After we did the 500 Nebulas, I got beat up a little bit. Thank you for allowing the 1,000. That's great. So I want to let a cat out of the bag. It's kind of what this whole thing is with the release. And by the way, John, it's been going really well all day.
Great.
What I don't think people know is that this is not just let's talk about it, do it, and the phone hangs up. This is a constant conversation around things like the neck shapes, the colors, the toners, the paints, the investigating what are possible as advancements in color. Like you're doing your own version of what Private Stock's doing with stains. Mm-hmm. We're working on the pickups, we're working on the bridges. There's not anything, whether it be the pots or the knobs or the switch tips or whatever, that isn't somehow in constant conversation. And leave alone the things that work perfectly, and we tweak quietly the things that are part of the constant thing. These are not a big deal, but I just want the whole world to know that you and I are in guitar making conversation constantly around all these pieces.
3-4 times a week, constantly, with there's no finish line. There's no like, okay, we did it, goodbye. Yeah. Because, you know, look, the mind of a guitar player and the soul of a guitar player is kind of always moving and changing like weather, you know? And so it's never a static situation. But it's true. The things that get locked, I go locked. And then there are things that are either led by your discovery on a manufacturer side, or about 50% of the time it's that, and the other 50% of the time it's me going, what about if this could be a little more like that? And they're so small that they're not even worth mentioning to people, because I don't want people to go like, well, mine doesn't have that, because they're so infinitesimally small. But I got to imagine it's like a car company where every year it's just, what can we do to just in really small little increments make sure that it's always in the bullseye for a moving target of a guitar player's mind, you know?
Right. And then the big stuff happens, which is look at all these colors that are coming out of this paint as I'm rotating it, right? And then we have a new model. So for me, I just want everybody to know that it's an active guitar player to guitar maker, guitar band leader to guitar company conversation. It's just and now I've become friends with all the people that you work with, you know, Feely and Chad and God knows everybody else, right? So
yeah, no, it's a long-term thing.
The long-term thing. Is there anything else that you want to talk about having to do with the Silver Sky? I know that for you, when you've got a boat of guitars and the one you gravitate to is a PRS and not an old one, that moment was a big moment for you, right?
It was a big moment. You know, things take time, and not just on a technical level, but on an emotional level, when you have to, don't have to, but want to leave a guitar in the rack that you've played for so many years, but you have this sort of new love of these guitars that are now made to not just sort of my physical specification, but they're sort of dreamy the way I'm always dreamy, you know? And it's gotten to the point now where I'm pulling a guitar out of the rack that's a Silver Sky that I've had for a year and a half, because I go, well, I like that one. And I would have thought that I would have just been constantly sort of going up, new one, up, new one. And my number one is over a year old, you know? And so that's really the goal for me, was to create something that held on in my mind the way my favorite guitars had in the last, you know, several decades of my playing. That it's not just you run one off, send me one, I hand it off, another one comes. Like, I have my favorite version. So I've started to lock onto some of these as, like, you know, number ones.
So I had a guitar experience today, and I almost like boxed the guitar up and shipped it to you. But the sound in your hands is very different than the sound in my hands. And one of the things I like say about Robben Ford is the sound in his hands. There's guitar players that have a sound in their hands.
Oh yeah, man.
So,
You know what I learned from Robben is this idea of, right? It'd be like he'll hang. It's almost like catching a wave. It kills me, this guy.
So a guitar came off the line that has more of that sound that I have in my hands than I've ever touched. And I couldn't figure out why. And I bought it. Now I have a rule in my business that if another guitar maker in another company or another single shop makes a guitar like better than mine, I'm going to play it. It's I've always said it since day one. If somebody makes a better one, I'll buy it and play it. And today I found one that just came off the line that I adore. And what I couldn't figure out was, why did it sound different than what we had designed? And we finally found out what it was. And it's repeatable. And, you know, so I have gone a little bit nuts. But one of the things that I would like to do sometime, John, is pack that guitar up and ship it to you and see if you have the same experience I've had.
I'd love to. I mean, that's like the dream of my musician life, is to have that connection with you where you pull a guitar off the line and go, I got to send it to you. The PRS FedEx is the greatest thing to wake up to after a cup of coffee and go, there it is, and open a guitar, and sort of our way of like chess by mail, you know?
Chess by mail, yeah. that happened with a private stock with the 408 bass pickups, and you ended up using that guitar in the Dead and Company, and you ended up using it in your band a little bit, right? The blue one?
Yeah. The blue one that had all those different sounds in it. You sent me a prototype 594.
Oh, God.
I ended up falling in love with, and you put a middle pickup in, and that's the one I've played with Dead and Company for the last 3 years.
Well, you jumped the gun and released the 594 by taking a picture of the back of it. You remember that? It was on the couch. Yeah. You said, I'm releasing this thing. Was I going to tell you no? I mean, it was a million views the next day, right?
Like that kind of mischief.
I know. So listen, John, as a songwriter, your job is to have a million ideas and turn them into reality.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to do that with guitars it's an honor for us, and it is a fluid thing. It's not static. If you were just static, you wouldn't be a songwriter. You wouldn't be.
That's true. In fact, Jeremy, my guitar tech, handed me this guitar, and I went, "Is the action a little high?" He's like, "No," and I go, "Okay." And I realized I said, "Hey, you basically tell me like, no, that's how you like it," and I go, "Okay." It took me 20 years to learn that as a guitar player. I think I know what I like, and there's so much. God, there's so much subtlety and so much reality distortion. Oh, the strings are too high on this one. To have someone go like, no, that's how you like it. I go, okay, that's how I like it. Isn't that funny about being a guitar player? Your senses are constantly changing. That's what makes it so magical, that to have someone else go like, no, that's how you like it. I go, okay, that's how I like it. And then I never have that feeling again. It's so magical and great. The thing I wanted to talk about for a minute in terms of where I am as a guitar player is like, the pureness of the guitar. Like I used to do these like, that stuff, and that stuff's really fun to do these really reiki, super atomic kind of ways to play the guitar. And I love it and I will still. But where I'm at now is like this purity of like the middle pickup. Sometimes I'll go. And not really do anything that's like scalar. Like I'll just go. And when the tone of something is good, you don't need all 6 notes at once.
Jesus, you're a good guitar. So did you hear what I just said?
No.
I said, Jesus, John, you're a good guitar player. That sounds a third Broadway, a third Jeff Beck, and a third John Mayer with a sweetness added.
Oh, thank you. And I just start playing, and then the guitar goes, no, go here. And I go, you can almost hear it where you can see me shopping as I'm playing. Like, where is this thing going to, there it is. And then you can see me catch it and go, oh, that's where it lives. That's why I can kind of play any guitar. I'll just keep going until I find would you agree that every guitar has at least one sweet spot?
No.
See, I think even if a guitar was
talking about a piece of junk.
If it were a piece of junk, you could still go. You could go.
All right, time out. I will now admit it. You're sitting in a room, you have an idea for tune, and there's no guitar around, but there's that one. That one, you can play. Sorry, Don, that's the sweet spot. I can get this tune on that guitar.
I'll write a Jimmy Reed tune.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
All right, now I admit it.
Yeah. Because
when you're desperate and you got to have a guitar, and there's one sitting there, that one does the job. I don't care how high the action is.
I bet you that Lightnin' Hopkins, it's I don't believe these guys had a set of strings in the sense that they got smaller as the note got higher. There's no doubt in my mind that these guys were playing guitars, that sometimes the D string and the G string were the same gauge.
Because that's all they had.
That's all they had.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no way they were like, oh, I need another G string to go on where that G string went. It went pop. They went, give me another string. And they still. When it's a good guitar, you can do that. I'm telling you, if you pick up a guitar that's no good and you start going. You can sit here all day and read on rhythm section.
So if you watch the Woodstock movie very closely, when Country Joe goes out at the beginning and plays that song, you can hear him yelling, somebody give me in a guitar, because the band equipment wouldn't get in. He didn't have a pick. Somebody give me a pick. And somebody gave him a pack of matches, and he used it as a pick. Because, I mean, you know, that's what you're talking about.
Yep.
And he played that whole tune that's world famous with a pack of matches as the thing.
Yep. Yep. And these are those guitars I can trip out with and just sit. And it doesn't make for good television to sit and go looking for it. But at some point on a really great guitar, you find a spot and you're just. And you can find a 12-bar thing and sit there and go around and around and around and feel like a whole band's playing.
So, John, I think not just you and I enjoy this guitar player relationship, but I from the feedback I get from the world, everybody's enjoying watching as it develops. And today we release another special 1,000 guitars, and we're not going to record the conversations that got us here, but there weren't a small amount of them.
No, and I can tell you, and I'm not a big fan of people who make things telling their audience how hard something was to make. I go, yeah, of course it's hard. That's your job, right? So it wasn't that it was hard.
No, it was fun.
It's really fun, but it's complex, right? Because we're trying to make something we haven't seen, but yet we also know what we're looking for, but we don't, but we do. And ultimately, when you look at something, there's this X factor that's like a sixth sense where you go, I gotta have it. You know, like I'm helping make these guitars on the design level. Mm-hmm. And if you ship me one and I go, I don't want to eat it, then I have to react to that and go, I think I probably said to you, like, I don't want to eat it. And when it's good and when every design element gets along with the thing next to it, you want to eat it. And I had this in my hand and I stood in the mirror and I went, I want one. I already have one, but I go, I want one. And that's the trick is tricking your own brain into going, I got to have one. And if I don't have that feeling, it joins the pile of many bodies that I have sitting in a storage place. All with that way. You guys are so generous. I don't know how many bodies go into one finish that we offer. Probably 8 to 1. 8 bodies for every one that goes, okay, that's going to be the color. So you guys are very generous.
8 prototypes until we got it right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's probably 8 prototypes per thing.
Per thing.
But again, I look at it and I go, you either want to eat it or you don't, you know?
All right, fair enough. So John, I really appreciate you being on. Our entire customer and fan base appreciates you being on.
That's my pleasure, man.
We released 10 new products today, and I think we did it in a smart way that doesn't hurt the back order that we have, and I'm really, really pleased. The thing that blew me away is when COVID happened, people started buying the guitars so they could have something to do and feel better at home. Mm-hmm. And we're on the lucky side of that. We've got friends in the restaurant business that just had to shut their doors. You know?
Guitar players and musicians are no strangers to escapism. And I think it's interesting to see our friends who didn't have an escape plan emotionally, mentally, and we went, oh, well, sitting alone in a house is what we grew up doing, right?
Yeah.
So guitar players were really lucky. All musicians were really lucky in the sense that sitting alone in a room for days on end was already in our skill set, you know? Not that it didn't get harder than anybody, or hasn't still been harder than anybody could imagine, but transporting with an instrument is to this day one of the most, and I'm not like a super spiritual dude, but that's some magic. Come on, to sit in a room and the walls go away and time goes away, and you look up and you go, that my clock's got to be broken. It cannot be 12:34 in the morning. And it goes, yep. And you go, where was I? You were playing music. You were gone.
I have the same statement, slightly different. I say it's the best drug in the world. You sit on the couch, you're in no pain, and when you put it away, there's no hangover.
That's right. That's right. No, it's the best feeling in the world.
All right.
And yeah,
All right. Well, look, I know you're working on a lot of new music. I haven't heard any of it yet, but I know your excitement level around it, and at some point, people are going to start hearing this stuff that you've been working on during this period of time, and we're looking forward to it, John.
Thank you so much. And keep safe. And everyone watching, please keep safe. Please hang in there. I know we're dipping into our reserves now in every possible way. So please, please, please hang in there and keep safe.
Love you, John. See you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, PRS. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Bev. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
All right, that